Gavel here. Hey, that's fine. There's gavels. Good evening. Let's call to order the Cities Association Board of Directors meeting of March 13th, 2025 at 7:14 p.m. First up is roll call.
Ann Bybee, Kitty Moore, Greg Baza, Lisa Fliger, here, Kavita Tonga, here, Matthew Hudes,
Here.
Carmen Montano, here, David Elahi,
Present.
Ellen Kamei, I know Mountain View has a city council meeting. Ed, oh, Ed, this would be.
Go ahead, say it.
Here.
Rosemary Kamei,
Here.
Kelly Cox,
Here.
Tina Walia,
Here.
Larry Klein.
Here.
Great, with 12 present, we have quorum.
Thank you. And Mayor Lowing would like to attend this meeting remotely due to a medical issue pursuant to AB 2449. A motion is required by the board to permit to attend that meeting, our meeting remotely, since their absence was not noticed prior to the agenda being published. Mayor Lowing, I don't know if that's ready. Mayor Lowing will also need to disclose whether or not there are any individuals over the age of 18 in the room with them. Mayor Lowing?
There's nobody in the room at all, and no one over 18.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there a motion to allow Director Lowing to attend remotely?
So moved.
Second.
Second, Montano.
Thank you. May we have a roll call vote?
Motion to allow Mayor Ed Lowing to attend the meeting remotely. Was made by Walia, seconded by Montano. I'm gonna call you by cities. Sunnyvale,
Yes.
Saratoga,
Yes.
Santa Clara,
Yes.
San Jose,
Yes.
Mountain View is not here. Morgan Hill,
Yes.
Monte Sereno,
Yes.
Milpitas,
Yes.
Los Gatos,
Yes.
Los Altos Hills,
Yes.
Los Altos,
Yes.
Gilroy is not here, Cupertino,
I'm.
and Campbell is not here. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next up is oral communications from the public on non-agendized items. This is an opportunity for the public to speak on something not on tonight's agenda. Is there anyone in the room or remote who wishes to speak on a non-agendized item? None? Okay. We'll move on to our main agenda. First up is our consent agenda. It's approval of the minutes from February 13th. Were there any corrections or comments? Is there any member of the public wishing to speak on this item?
No, not really.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second. I'm sorry, I didn't catch the second. Oh, come in. Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented was made by Walia, seconded by R. Kamei. Campbell's not here. Cupertino,
I'm.
Gilroy's not here. Los Altos,
Yes.
Los Altos Hills,
Yes.
Los Gatos,
Yes.
Milpitas,
Yes.
Monte Sereno,
Yes.
Morgan Hill,
Yes.
Mountain View is not here. Palo Alto. There.
Yes.
Thank you. San Jose,
Yes.
Santa Clara,
Will abstain due to absence.
Saratoga,
I.
Sunnyvale.
Aye.
Great. Motion passes with 11 ayes and 1 abstention.
Okay. Next up is the president update. I'll keep this very short. I know we have multiple speakers tonight. Thank you all for being here. And luckily there wasn't rain like yesterday. We actually lost power in this building for a short period of time. So thank you all. Definitely as we look forward to this year, reach out to me if you have speakers that you would like to see. We're doing, we're an executive board. We're looking for speakers and go along with our basically different priorities for the year. That being said, as things vary from a week to week standpoint, especially right now, if you have specific topics that you would like to see this board talk about, and conceivably, a few months ago it was wildfires, but just looking at PG&E outages just in the last day, there's been lots of questions, either from a state standpoint or from regional standpoint. If you have any ideas, definitely feel free to reach out, or if you have specific organizations that that you would like to have to come speak to us, I'm always ready to do that. So thank you. We'll keep it very short tonight. We have several speakers tonight. First up is our next item is the Bay Area Host Committee discussion and possible action. We have two speakers. First up is Ruth Shikata. She is the Vice President of Government and External Affairs at the Bay Area Host Committee. It's a 501c6 nonprofit corporation whose mission is to bring world-class sporting events to the Bay Area to drive economic vitality, foster community-wide engagement, instill civic pride, and elevate the Bay Area's global recognition. In her current capacity since 2024, Ruth is responsible for the strategic management of efforts in seeking support for the Bay Area Host Committee's interests and operations with external partners at all levels of government. Prior to her tenure with the Host Committee, Ruth had more than 30 years of professional experience in local government, leading numerous public-private partnerships and public policy initiatives in the cities throughout California. She retired from the city of Santa Clara in 2021 as an assistant city manager. She received her BA from UC Irvine, and when not working or injured, Ruth enjoys a good workout at Orange Therapy, fitness, and trying out new wines with friends. Ruth has 2 adult children and lives in San Jose. And our second speaker is someone most of us would know very well. Chappie Jones has more than 35 years of public-private sector experience in public policy, strategy, leadership, project and channel management, and technical sales. Chappie's extensive background gives him a keen understanding of the challenges and opportunities faced by public and private sector. Chappie was elected to the San Jose City Council in November 2014, where he represented City Council District 1. In 2019, he assumed the role of vice mayor. During his tenure on council, Chappie advanced policies to improve the quality of life for San Jose residents. In particular, led efforts to increase the regional minimum wage in Santa Clara County, as well as policies that help narrow San Jose's digital divide. Chappie led multiple local agencies and regional agencies and commissions, including chair of the VTA, president of the Cities Association, and as chair of the San Jose Small Business Advisory Force. Prior to his election, Chappie worked in the private sector as senior regional management positions with Apple and AT&T. Chappie has a bachelor's degree in economics from UC Davis and a master business administration at Haas School of Business at UC Berkeley. Chappie has been married to his wife Kelly for 30 years and had 2 grown children and live in the Murdoch neighborhood of West San Jose. And with that, Chappie.
They're behind you.
No, they're hiding. I know they were here. That's fine. Wait, what to get it off? Longer than our people. You had a presentation? Oh, okay. There we go. Sorry about that. They're grab another chair. There's plenty. Or stand up. Yeah, whatever.
Okay.
No, you're fine. Whatever you want. Whatever is
I'll
comfortable.
stand for now, project a little bit better when I'm standing.
Good.
Thank you for having me tonight. We have a presentation. We wanted to talk a little bit about the host committee, what we do, and the events that are coming into the Bay Area in 2026. And so I know you have a few items on your agenda, so we're trying to run through it and be brief to the extent we can. And Chappie and I are going to tag team here. He's gonna jump in when I forget something or add something that's just a lot of wisdom, right, Chappie? So with that, we'll go. Some of you may be familiar with the host committee and its previous iteration. So we formed originally the host committee formed in 2013. It stood itself up for Super Bowl 50. Had a bunch of staff, and then once Super Bowl 50 occurred, then it stood down. It's basically dormant. It reformed again for 2019 for the college football playoff national championship game. And then it went dormant. So in 2022, the presidents of the professional teams here in the Bay Area decided to, that they wanted to look into a sustainable sports commission so that when we bid something, we didn't have to staff up, kind of have the steep learning curve of everybody and have some institutional knowledge and then, and then do something for the Bay Area. So in 2024 hired a new CEO, and then we got 3 major events: the NBA All-Star Game, which happened last month, and then the 2 that are happening in 2026, the Super Bowl 60 and World Cup. Our hope is that, again, we'd be a sustainable sports commission, and so that we'd be able to look at events throughout the Bay Area for the longer term. So this is a quick snapshot of our board and some of the organizations that we partner with. As mentioned earlier, we're a 501c6, so that we're a nonprofit organization that is really focused on economic growth here in the Bay Area. So we are here to, I know, I wonder why it's so dark. Thank you for that. That our mission is really to organize and manage high-profile sporting events, collaborate with international sports organizations like FIFA or the International Rugby Association that has been looking in the Bay Area. We lead fundraising efforts because, as we'll talk about a little bit further, we don't get any of the share of any of the revenue associated with these events. So no ticket revenue, no merch revenue, no broadcasting revenue, but we do have a bunch of expenses. So we need to fundraise for that. Also, what we're trying to do is build a lasting legacy here in the Bay Area. So we'll talk a little bit, I'll mention a little bit about some of our programs that we are embarking on. So it's more than just the event itself. And then again, building a foundation for a longer term sports commission. I mentioned this just a little bit, but this is a quick visual on how the events work, where there's a governing body, so they own the event. So in this case of like Super Bowl, the NFL owns the event. And so they own everything about it, all the rights, anything associated with it. I think we've probably heard some stories where somebody tried to do some little gathering or fundraiser or something associated with like Super Bowl, and all of a sudden the NFL finds it and then gets a cease and desist because they're very serious about kind of owning everything has to do with their event. But in order to execute, they need people on the ground. They need some local folks that can take their big idea of their event and then make it mold it to the region. Like what makes their event, say, the Bay Area, or just more recently, say, New Orleans. And so that's part of what we do. And then we interface with venues, the professional sports teams here, local government, transportation agencies, community organizations, and of course the bands. So we did a quick, did you want something? Okay, we did an economic impact analysis before the NBA All-Star Game, and that at that time that we estimated about these 3 events could bring in $1.4 billion of economic impact into the Bay Area. And that in aggregate, more than 500,000 visitors, and then 400,000 room nights.
Yeah, I was going to say too, this is a great opportunity for each individual city to kind of embrace these events. I'm thinking back 31 years ago when Los Gatos hosted and embraced the Brazilian soccer team. And I remember all the economic vitality, the parties, the energy that took place there. So this really is an opportunity for each city to figure out and carve out an opportunity to support and host these events.
So one of the things that we'd like to make sure that people understand, and I'm sure that you all understand, especially after the Los Gatos experience, is that the World Cup is the biggest sports tournament internationally in the world. And so this is an example of the interactions or the views associated with different events. And so for World Cup, 19 billion views, interactions with the event versus like Olympics, at 8.4 billion. Super Bowl is at 1.5. So it's the eyes of the world will truly be upon us once the tournament starts. Just quickly on the timeline. So Super Bowl 60 will be from February 1 through the 8th. So the 8th will be the game itself, but there will be ramping up of events that will start about February 1. For World Cup here in the Bay Area, our match days are from June 13th to July 1. The tournament itself will start on June 11th. And then the US opener will be in Los Angeles at SoFi Stadium on June 12th. And then we'll have our first match here in the Bay Area on the 13th. The Bay Area has 6 total matches in World Cup, 5 in group stage and 1 in elimination. And our schedule is probably the tightest schedule amongst any of the World Cup cities, so that we have 6 matches in a period of 19 or so days. There are 16 World Cup cities, 3 in Mexico, 2 in Canada, and then 11 here in the United States. And so organizing that, so you have 16 cities going at the same time, and just in our country, 11 cities going at the same time. And FIFA likes to say that each World Cup game, each World Cup match is like having a Super Bowl. So if you think about it in that context, then we'll have 6 Super Bowls here in the Bay Area in a period of 19 days. So for World Cup specifically, we anticipate that the total impact for the Bay Area is in the $480 to $630 million range in Santa Clara County. And we broke it out a little bit by county, and 270 to 360. For World Cup, that we anticipate that there's going to be much more activity here in the South Bay versus in San Francisco. Probably in Super Bowl, it's going to be a little bit more, still a little bit in San Francisco. I shouldn't say a little bit. Still a lot is happening in San Francisco, but there's more activity in the South Bay, but still more San Francisco centric on Super Bowl, and there'll be more South Bay centric with World Cup. So just wanted to give show you a brief recap of the NBA All-Star Game. And the reason why I wanted just to show this slide is to show that there are a number of activities that are happening, and that we try to move it for NBA All-Star, both in San Francisco and in Oakland. And then the host committee, we tried to produce our own events that were more localized, that were outside of the NBA umbrella. So then for Super Bowl, the teams will arrive like they traditionally do. They arrive into market on a Sunday, that we anticipate that they'll be either at San Jose or San Francisco. Personally, I think that they're going to come into San Jose because their team hotels will be in the city of Santa Clara and the city of San Jose. There will be an opening night. Some of you may recall that the last time it was called Media Night, it was really focused on the media, for the media. It's changed over the last probably 5 or so years, and now they call it opening night. They still sell tickets, but it's probably in the $25, $30-ish range, but it's meant to be a celebration of the teams, and it's a more affordable way for the community to be able to access the Super Bowl and to interact with the teams. So great for us in the South Bay if we want to have some of that and not have to trudge up to San Francisco to the NFL experience. But that'll be happening at SAP in San Jose. So as you can see that there's one more, just give me a second. Yeah. there are a number of activities. I want to point out that the team practices will be at Stanford and at San Jose State University, and I think that's okay. And then for World Cup, this one is it's a monster, but because it's so big, we haven't ironed out all the details yet about what's gonna be happening, where it's gonna be happening. What we'd like to do at the host committee is to make sure that we actually do celebrate the Bay Area. And so that not only do we have things in the South Bay, some things in San Francisco, but there are some things that are happening in the East Bay or in the North Bay. And so that we are looking to see whether or not that we can create some community watch parties all around. I have spoken with some of your economic development staff. So at this SVITA, so Silicon Valley Economic Development Alliance, part of joint venture, I've spoken with that group a couple times about how cities might be able to then leverage either the Super Bowl or the World Cup for your own communities. And so, rather than having everyone go to San Francisco for a fan fest or for NFL experience, is there something that is interesting that people might want to celebrate the game or the tournament within your own communities? Whether it be those gathering spots that you already have, those restaurants you already have, the downtowns you already have. How do you make that more authentic for your communities? And then possibly draw people in. You all know the demographics of your communities. We won't know the teams that are playing here in the Bay Area until December of this year. That's when the draw happens, and that's when we'll know where the teams will be starting in their group stage throughout North America. But is there a community of Colombians within your community that they were going to want to celebrate or watch the tournament every day, especially on those days that their team plays? And so that there are ways to leverage that. We are conveners, so that the work that we do kind of on behalf of the event owners, so the NFL or FIFA, but that we want to convene and we want to support. So if your cities are interested in doing something in your downtowns, like we can try to, how do we best support you in doing that? How, can we provide you with an overlay that gives it something World Cup related that doesn't say FIFA or World Cup on it, but something that brings that vibe, that energy into your communities? Can we, if it's something bigger, can we get, have an athlete appearance or something like that that will, like I said, step it up just a little bit and make it more special for the sake of the tournament. We are also then looking at these red boxes or some of the things that we're looking at trying to do outside of the FIFA umbrella. Again, trying to spread things around the Bay Area, but not necessarily a FIFA sanctioned event. One of the things I just wanted to touch base on is that our legacy program. So as a Sustainable Sports Commission, that we want to make sure that we do leave an impact here more than just the game itself. So our president, CEO, Zaleen Jal Mohammed, she always tells us and reminds us constantly that, if we executed these events without a hitch, right? 100% perfect, and everyone was happy, and it was that game day was excellent, and that's all we did. Then, as an organization, we failed, because we should be doing something more, and we should be looking to try and leave an impact or leverage the games, leverage these events to do something more. So, as two examples in this first pillar. We have Bridge to Work is our workforce development program. So we piloted our pilot at NBA All-Star. And so we had 53 individuals that went through our workforce development program. We partnered with a workforce organization, and that part of their then inserted working at the NBA All-Star game as part of their curriculum. And then so that these people, there are 52 individuals that went through the program, and that they are learning skills, and hopefully that after their program is done in a 12 to 18 month period, then we'll be able to help find them long-term jobs. This program is aimed toward disadvantaged communities. And so that one of the areas that we've been targeting are previously incarcerated individuals. And that because they have a harder time trying to find longer term employment, training and longer term employment. And then so the next box over is our supplier diversity program. So this is something that the NFL through its source program has really launched for Super Bowl 60 already. And that we're looking at trying to figure out how to piggyback on that for small suppliers then to be able to access contracts or opportunities associated with Super Bowl and with World Cup. So that could be anything from being a sub to a major supplier that's already connected into the NFL. Or it could be when people come into market and they're doing a party or they're doing something and they need something, local. Where can I go for X, Y, and Z? That we'd have some kind of directory. We'd have something available to them so we could immediately provide some resources and references to those folks. And then I won't go through those other things right this for a second, but just keep going.
But again, I just want to reiterate that the NFL and the Bay Area Host Committee are committed to these programs like supplier diversity and access and inclusion. They're not backing down, they're not relenting on those programs, they're fully committed.
So I just wanted to advise that so that we, on a national basis, we along with 10 other US host cities have been working together in a coalition to ask the federal government for assistance. And so that we have been working, our ask is 625 million, and it's all focused on safety and security. As you can imagine, that safety and security for a tournament like this, with people coming in from all over the world, it's just critical. And so that we've been saying for a long time that we need some federal resources, some federal assistance. And then so that's where most of our efforts at the federal side lay. Recently, I don't know if you noticed, like last week, the White House did announce that they formed a task force, a White House task force for the World Cup. So, and already we're seeing a lot more communication across the different departments, whether it be State Department, Homeland Security. So that part has been good as far as the tournament is concerned. On the state side, we are also making an ask. We are working with the city of Los Angeles. Well, actually, we're working with the Los Angeles Sports and Entertainment Commission, who is our counterpart. And then we've asked the state for some assistance for a couple of different reasons. One is that we don't know whether or not or how much we're going to get from the federal government. Even if we get some money from the federal government, they're likely to ask for a local match. And then we've got other objectives that we think that would be really advantageous for the state of California. That is more that's why it's Sacramento based. So in that regard, we're asking for safety and security, and we're asking for some assistance on mobility planning for transit and transportation. We've been working with the transit agencies throughout the Bay Area. And then meet with those folks at least on a monthly basis. So that's BTA, Caltrain, BART, San Francisco Muni, AC Transit, Capital Corridor. So we know that for the World Cup, that the people coming into the area, that they're used to mass transit, that's their choice mode of transportation. And so our collective question is, how do we make it easier for them, more intuitive for them, so that riding transit is a great experience here. With any luck, that it'll work so well that we might be able to move the needle a bit, and so the Bay Area residents here can also experience something that hopefully is efficient and is fun to ride. I talked a little bit about workforce development, but so we're looking to see if we can get some state support or collaboration on workforce development. And of course, there's the tourism marketing and state promotion. The games as they start out, so LA has a game. And then we have a game the next day, and then there is like 1 or 2 day break, and then LA has a game, and then we have a game. So that in theory, somebody could come into the state and just go up and down the state for the first 20 days of the tournament. So and we think that there's a good likelihood that might happen. So that people, we understand from FIFA that people come into market and they try and take in as many games as possible. And then with the hour flight in between our markets, that it seems to be suggested that would be easy for them. One other little anecdote that I've heard from FIFA is that that it would not surprise them if there's not a hotel room to be had within 100 miles of the stadiums. So that's just something to think about. And from a hotel perspective, from whatever, if you have Airbnbs in your communities, but that's what they've told us, that there'll be a lot of people coming in market, and it'll be very difficult to find hotels. So with that, one of the things that not necessarily an action item for tonight, but one of the things that we would really appreciate is that that we do have a number, we do have sign-ons that we look for every once in a while. So whether it be a sign-on letter for the state, asking if you're inclined to support the funding request. Of course, we'd have to give you more information, but the funding request at the state level or at the federal level. I want to note that the Bay Area Caucus, that we got almost every single assembly member and senator to sign on to that they would support some funding for World Cup in Sacramento. So it was very heartening to see. Like I said, we're working very closely with our counterparts in the Los Angeles area. And so that we actually did get a total of 50 some odd legislators. Does that sound right? 58 some odd legislators to sign on, which is pretty significant given the numbers that we have, in Sacramento, both on the Assembly and on the Senate. So that's it. I hope that was fast enough. And then I'm here to answer any questions if you like. And or depending on your time, please feel free to give either one of us a call or an email. How we could support you, how to provide you with information or whatever you might need.
Yeah, just this is huge. This is a huge event, and it's going to impact all of our cities, economically, resource-wise, just sheer number of visitors that are coming in. As we all know, we're coming out of some difficult times because of COVID. Our hotels are struggling, our hospitality industry is struggling, and this is going to be a major boost to those industries. And so it's our ask is to have the support of this organization and the individual cities to support our efforts.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good question.
And we'll go to questions to directors. Go ahead.
Where are the football events, the FIFA events? Are they all at the Levi Stadium or they're someplace else?
They're at Levi Stadium.
Go ahead.
I was wondering if you've connected with like the San Jose Earthquakes and Dance of Force, Santa Clara Sporting. There's a bunch of youth soccer leagues out there, and they probably have some ideas about where they would like to have viewing parties. And it matters if the events are in the evening, or whether or not you could have an outside viewing screen, if all possible. If it's going to be dark enough, I don't know.
So the Jerry Shawley, the president of the Earthquakes, is actually on our board of directors, so that we do have a great working relationship with him. He's part of us. And then on youth soccer, we have a coalition of soccer organizations that we check in with on a monthly basis. And then so we are looking at ways to incorporate youth, meaning that, you know, are there community events that we could possibly do that would include youth, that would excite them about the World Cup, and then give them an opportunity that they might not otherwise have. There are a number of people. We always talk about 94 and what an impact it left on a number, on a wide range of people. And then as we've been working on the World Cup, we hear a lot, especially from the professional players, about kind of what happened to them in 94, like how that inspired them, how that, you know, and how that changed their lives. And so we want to continue that legacy.
Thanks.
Yeah, Director Tonkin.
So first of all, thank you for the presentation, it was brilliant. My question is, my understanding is that from San Mateo all the way to San Jose is the highest trafficked corridor for human trafficking in the country. And activities like this are at a peak during sporting events like this. Now, I was curious to see if you are looking into that and what steps you're taking to mitigate that risk.
So human trafficking, or trafficking in general, is one of the working groups under the public safety umbrella. And so that there's going to be some attention and work there, as well as, you know, our organization has been in contact and have had regular meetings with the South Bay Coalition Against Human Trafficking, or for Human Trafficking, Sharon. And so that it is something that we know that happens, and we need to raise awareness, create resource, make sure that the people understand where the resources are, and that would include things like training of hotel workers, and so that it's on the work plan.
The questions?
Thank you for your presentation. So on the fifth one, tourism, marketing, state promotion, how are you going to integrate the cities to promote our cities? Tourism, market, you mentioned something about signing on. If we sign on, are we going to be getting some of that funding for our cities to do, for example, tourism, marketing, and state promotion?
Possibly. So I say that, I don't mean to really make light of that, but that our focus really is, like, the first thing that needs to be paid for is going to be on the safety and security side. So then, you know, so it's kind of like it kind of trickles down a bit, and so it really depends on how much money we're able to get. If we get our full ask from both the federal government and the state, then we will have some money that we'll be able to work with on kind of like these, what I would call fan engagement type things. But we don't really know what that is. And so I'm kind of afraid, I just want to say that that's part of our ask, is say that this is what we'd like to do with some of the funds. But we won't know until we actually see like what might.
So how are you coordinating with the cities? For example, with the transit, we have shuttle services in Milpitas, but it only goes to Milpitas, but I'm sure in our city, but we only provide services in our city. But however, for the World Cup, it's only 2 miles away from Milpitas, so we could probably transport. So how do you coordinate that with every agents?
So right now it's been, so I've gone to the city managers group for, you know, countywide city managers group. And then, like I mentioned, like that I've talked to Representative Savita. So in Milpitas, it would be Alex Andrade. And so that's an entry point, right, for us. And that again, that's why I'm kind of coming out and trying to let everybody know what's happening and that we are a resource too, so that, you know, that if we need to try and bring people together, that's what part of our job is to do.
We're also having conversations with MTC and the individual agencies as well. So we're putting together a comprehensive transportation strategy that involves integrating all the different transportation modes as well as wayfinding and helping visitors navigate their way around the Bay Area and South.
Yeah. That's great, that all the cities we put our heads together and come up with some plans how to attract people to our cities, because we all want a piece of the pie, right?
That's right.
Exactly right.
Director Flagler.
Thank you, and let me just echo the thanks. This was great. Thanks for being here. And thanks for all the work you guys are doing. This sounds very daunting, even though both Kathy and Ruth make it seem so easy, right? You're just going through this, and I'm sure it's not. I'm going to follow up on Carmen's question about how to really engage the cities for us to get involved, and what platforms you will use to allow us to do this. So, for example, you're having conversations with city managers and different representatives from different cities. But I think it would actually be helpful if there's a documentation, like a cheat sheet for cities to be able to look at or go to a website to say, this is, if you want to plan an event, this is what you need to do. You know, these are other ways your cities can help. For example, I don't know if you may need help from our police departments, shuttles in some cities, but I really think it will help us as a convener to give us some documentation or a cheat sheet. How can cities get involved? Who do we need to contact? What resources do we need to be aware of so that it's easy for us to help and support and engage? And so, for example, like Kavita and I whispered, Los Altos Hills and Los Altos should host an event, right? If we were to plan an event, you know, would you put it on the website so that fans and visitors would know that there's an event in our area on this date at this time at this restaurant? So those are the types of things I think would be very helpful for cities. And I like the ask of having us consider sending a letter to say we support this to our legislators. But let us know how we can help, and let us know how you can help us to make it successful.
Okay, great.
Thank you. I have several questions. First, so we have a good feel for the Super Bowl, and it's basically a week. Before the June 13th FIFA, how long, what kind of runway of events? You know, the teams will normally go to the area earlier, start practicing. It's as opposed to the Super Bowl, it might be a time zone, but they have a full week, and that's usually enough. From an international standpoint, it's several weeks of usually local play, as opposed to arriving a week, less than a week ahead. So you had kind of a runway for Super Bowl. What's the runway for FIFA?
So there's a couple of threads there.
Yeah.
So first off, the way that the tournament, I learned this and was that, so when the nations come in, right, that they live here for 45 to 60 days, presuming that they make it through the tournament that long. And so that one of the things that's happening within North America is that cities are also looking to be base camps. So this is the home away from home for these teams. And so we've been looking in the Bay Area. We had thought preliminary that there might be up to 5 potential base camps here in the Bay Area, and thought that the national teams would love to be in the Bay Area. But you know, it's been challenging to meet all the requirements. So on the because we need to house them, they need training facilities, and they need hotels, which are a little easier attached to them because their friends and family come. And so putting aside the Bay Area for just a second. So they live in a place, and then what they do is that they'll be training there pre-tournament for probably a couple weeks. And then for the match themselves, then they'll fly out to wherever their match is at. So if they choose to train in Portland, for example, it's not a host city, but they might choose to train there. they'll fly into San Jose the day before the match. They'll stay at hotels in San Jose, and then they'll train at either PayPal or San Jose State. And then they'll play their match the next day, and then they'll probably be back out. But that's kind of how the teams travel.
Okay.
Um,
No, I appreciate that. And so conceivably, we don't have teams here for an extended period of time. So that was one of the questions. If depending upon what teams are finally chosen and all that, and the locations they choose. Next is budget, which all of our cities are always worried about in these times. Part of it's security, and conceivably is their matching requests and all that. But our cities, especially those adjacent to Santa Clara, are looking at a 2025, 2026 budget in just a few months. Well, June, it's one thing to talk about a 1 week event where it's really like a weekend. It's a whole other thing to talk about the ongoing effects of a month-long event. Do you have any, let's say, benchmarks of what we should be looking at for a fiscal year budget of next year? And we can go beyond that for fan zones and things of that nature, but security first, and then anything else that you have suggestions for this group for.
So for anything related to the event, and related to the event at the stadium, so we have an agreement with the city of Santa Clara. So for safety costs, then we are responsible for those safety costs associated with that event. So if Santa Clara PD needs assistance from your city's police department, then those staff people will be reimbursed through the city of Santa Clara by us, and that's where some of this money is. Same as
Just clarifying, because it's like the traffic of our adjacent cities becomes a very big thing, and it's safety, it's management, it's all that. So
yeah.
just clarifying that.
Yeah.
And then lastly, branding. So we talk about fan zones and all that. You mentioned a little bit, but you kind of skipped over. It's like, I know Super Bowl is very, let's say, very litigious conceivably on the use of their branding.
They're very protective.
Very protective. So suggestions for this for these cities on if they wanted to create a fan zone, what issues, and kind of goes to a website, what they need to steer away from, or what's allowed. It's like we have a Super Bowl, a football weekend, and it just only one football game's happening this weekend.
So
Are there things that can be done from this?
we are in the process of planning for a meeting with through Savita, so through the Silicon Valley Economic Development Alliance, and the local DMOs, and to the extent that the Savita members want to pull in their chambers. In early April, I just told Clara Gross today that, like, okay, this date works. And that we'd have like a workshop for folks about, okay, if we do fan engagement, you do fan engagement zones or events, then, how might this work within your cities? What are the rules of engagement? What are some of the things you need to be careful about? And then, kind of then start brainstorming from, like how we might be able to help as the host committee, like what are some of the things that cities might be interested in, and so opening that dialogue. But that's on April.
Okay, and I appreciate that, because I think, all of our cities would love to host, have those fan zones, have that hosting. We don't want to get into, let's say, any lawsuits, and it's trying to make sure that doesn't happen. Any final questions from the directors? Any members of the public, in person or remote, wishing to speak on this?
No.
So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Please
Really
pass-
appreciate the time.
And Shali can pass your information out to the group, and I'm sure you'll be hearing from all of us.
Great. Thank you. Thank you again. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
you.
Thank you. Next up. Okay. Next up is the item 4, review of the draft fiscal year 2024-2025 budget, a discussion and possible action. First, Ellen? Yes, Director Sedil.
Right, thank you. Good news, everyone. No need to raise dues is our thoughts. Yay, right? One of the thoughts was, we were very happy and pleased, Gilroy welcomed into the fold and they paid their dues as well. So we're certainly not looking forward to raising them anytime soon. Budget's strong. Obviously we're not trying to make a profit. We're just trying to keep it contained, don't overspend, just try and break even, right? So we're looking at this and it looks like we're expected to do exactly that, have a little bit of a reserve. There were a few key things that we thought were worth pointing out. So one of which is we are going to try and get back into the swing of, or we will, I should say, the quarterly reports. We're going to get back into quarterly reports. Also, you probably noticed we were thinking about increasing the budget a little bit for the special events. We're also going to want to seek out sponsors for the summer and the holiday party because that's been successful. People probably remember El Camino, SVCE have been sponsors in the past. We're hopefully going to be looking for more. One other thing, so we saw some cost savings potential with the bookkeeper and payroll, and thinking we can consolidate those two things and also potentially save money in that regard. So I believe we're trying to figure out currently, City of Sunnyvale might be able to help us out with the bookkeeping / payroll, and it would hopefully be significant cost savings on that. But nothing too much more exciting. Charlie, did you have anything to add?
I can go through the budget very quickly. There's a staff report that explains my rationale and how I got to some of the numbers. I do have to make an embarrassing correction though. So for meeting space rental, apparently it was 4,000 for the year and not 4,000 per month. So that
means
number,
good news.
that's awesome.
Right.
So instead of 24,000, that should be 4,000, which means I've got to redo all of my numbers. So I apologize for that. Yeah, and so I did go to the city managers yesterday, so I'll get their input and their comments, and I'd like, this is your first read, I'd like all of you to send me your comments and questions like over this month. By April 6th, because I have to post it by April 6th. So then I will redo the budget and bring it back to you in April for your full approval.
And before we get to any comments, so one of the things that historically Sunnyvale was the host for this organization, it's somewhat central to North County and South County and all that. We're happy to host for free this year, but one of the things that we talked about was the rental for this location moving forward, at least starting in January of next year, when the first vice presidents will be taking over. And it's normally, over the last few years, it's been the host city, and we've been moving this around. Kind of moving forward, I do think that this works out well for a lot of people, and so that's one of the reasons why we added that. And then thanks to our city manager, Mr. Kirby, for looking at basically doing both the auditing of this organization on a yearly basis, and as well as kind of general bookkeeping. We think that this will simplify, we do this for several nonprofits in our city, and so I think it makes it easier than going to an outside firm. So going forward, that will save this organization additional funds for that standpoint. With that, are there any questions? And if it's long questions, I know we have multiple things tonight, but maybe short questions, great. We can always, and if you have feedback for Shali and our treasurer, Director Scazola, you can do that outside of this meeting. But if you have any quick comments or questions, Director Waller.
Thank you, Chair. Quick feedback, thank you, a relief, 4,000 per year. Really, the real feedback is thank you so much, Director Scazola and Executive Director Shally. This is a very well explained staff report, and I really like how you have thought about everything. So big thanks to both of you.
Any other comments? Questions? Members of the public wishing to speak? Anyone? Okay. So please pass your comments. Any comments to Shali over the next 3 weeks or so. Next up is the Cities Association. No action. We'll take action in April. Cities Association website revision discussion and possible action. So this is one of the things that carried over from last year. We had a subcommittee that met once, I think, that didn't make progress. Things got a little crazy as the year went on. And as people have seen, you know, the website has needed some issues and needed some updating for some time now. And so this is basically a call for members who are interested in being on a subcommittee. So ultimately, we had funding in this year's budget that we did not use. We'll, you know, part of if you take a look at the previous item that we just talked about, there's talk about additional funding and long-term maintenance. So that's one of the things that we do need to look at, but they're a full redesign and trying to make sure that it's a little more usable. What was put in place several years ago has worked out okay. That being said, it's not great about posting video. There's a lot of things that our planning collaborative would like to add. And so we don't have enough, let's say, capabilities in our current host. So the right thing to do is basically go back and do redesign. So if people are interested in being on that subcommittee, if you want to give feedback on that design, raise your hand now, reach out to me or Shali offline. But if you have feedback, I would love to hear it. You know, and this is why we're creating that subcommittee to basically kind of go through page by page what you would like to see, as well as we do mock-ups, as we do, you know, first trials of that new website, we'd be able to get that feedback from each and every one of the subcommittee members, and then ultimately showcase that to this larger committee when we have, let's say, a mock or a partial website in operation. Any questions or comments? Director Waller?
I'm happy to be on the subcommittee, not a technical person, but in my city, when the website needed some improvements, I was able to get a lot of feedback. So that's what you're looking for. I'm happy. If they're technical, I'm not the person.
That's fine. That's why we pay experts to do the job. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Thank you, Director Turner. And that's a good thing. It's a website, so we can all be remote on a Zoom meeting, not have to actually be in the room. Anyone else? Any comments? Any members of the public wishing to speak?
No.
Okay, thank you. Next up are reports from regional appointed representatives. And so this is something that we weren't able to cover last month, but kind of continues forward. You know, it's getting updates from the different organizations that we appoint members to represent this body at a county level or a regional level. Tonight we'll be governing Measure A, and I've been on the Measure A Citizens Oversight Committee for the last 2 years. We have a guest speaker. No, it's fine. Go ahead. And I just want to introduce her so that she will also, oh, there she is. Okay. Consuelo Hernandez, who many of you know already, is a deputy county executive. As deputy county executive, Consuelo's portfolio includes supporting the Office of Supportive Housing, facilities and fleet, asset and economic development, and special assignments that include the jail facility transformation process and the fairgrounds. During her nearly 10 years tenure with the county, Consuelo has overseen implementation and administration of the county's $950 million affordable housing bond, coordinated the county's network of supportive housing programs, and directed the lead agency for the local continuum of care. Consuelo, good to see you. Thanks for being here tonight.
Nice to
And
see you all.
Thank you. And so what we'll do is I'll go through a quick presentation, and then I'll speak a little bit, and then Consuela can also chime in. So here was an update from our December meeting, as far as, and so the group meets kind of quarterly at this point. Doing kind of review of where the $950 million has been spent, what kind of progress we're seeing on those projects that aren't complete yet, are in different stages. We can move forward. As a reminder, so this was 2016, and the Oversight Committee started in 2017, and rapidly, doled out that money, and it helped with speeding up a lot of the progress of affordable housing. It was that local money that was then matched by state and federal money and cities themselves that helped move this forward, a lot of this housing forward. Let's go on. And so the bond proceeds, that's fine, was to contribute to the creation and preservation of approximately 4,800 affordable housing units. So that was the goal when we set this out. And ultimately, here's some of the highlights. So 56 housing developments across 10 cities in the county, 5,800 units, $20 million towards a home buying program. The memorandum of understanding helped certain cities basically match some of these funds, and so help streamline that process. Ultimately, when developments are in operation, we assume that the partners will have created about housing for about 17,000 persons, 42% of those set aside for previously unhoused individuals and family members. So this is kind of an oversight of where the money and kind of what the long-term goals are, and what we've been able to accomplish since the bond was approved. Go ahead. And here's kind of the deep level of the number of units of different qualities. And some of them are completed, and some of them, of course, so you have home ownership programs, of course, which are, the actual owning homes, but a lot of this is for supportive housing and a mixture of NOFA and approved projects across that. So you look at the total number of units that we're targeting here is 5,300, and you kind of see the breakdown of that. But $825 million towards housing specific, mainly for affordable housing for low income. And then you see mixed income and home ownership programs, an additional 125 million. Continue. Here's the home ownership programs. And so these are the programs that it's met our goals. And you see some of the homes purchased, EMR programs. Here's all the completed projects. I didn't list all of the cities here. So you can see it's a mixture of cities, and the majority of our cities did get at least one project funded by the Measure A funds. These are completed projects, which which is critical. Looking at the bigger thing is a lot of these projects are in different stages of financing. You know, the faster we get them to shovel ready, and as we see right now in all of our communities, the cost of construction, the cost of labor, everything else is rapidly going up. And so showing that we've actually what we've completed is a big pat on the back to all of us, because, you know, being able to actually create these units and say that they're done was the goal from the very beginning. As we look at the funds that we've allocated, and we'll get into that in a little bit, for some of the projects, they're going through continuing to do extensions because the tax credits from a state or federal level are harder to get, and they're very competitive. And, you know, whenever I'm in DC talking to my federal reps, it's like trying to free up some of those tax credits. That's what our affordable housing developers are really asking for. Getting projects complete is a big, is a big win for all of us, for all, creating that housing, affordable housing locally that people can be placed into, and there's long waiting lists for each one of these units as they're created. So 2,500 completed, and then the completion, so 4,800, you look at where we are right now, 2,600 approximate, and the goal of 4,700 in 2028. I think that becomes more of a stretch goal as we look at what's happening at a federal level, and just from an inflationary standpoint nationally, that becomes more of a reach goal. But where we stand now, we've completed a good portion. It's just now only certain of those are in progress and in shovel and actually in construction right now. So we have, multiple ones in several communities, but there's a good number, and I think that was one of the next slides. Continue. So these are the goal unit completions for the next few years, and so you kind of see the breakdown. Continue. And then the commitments versus estimated cost. You can see since the bond was initially created, so this is eye-opening to a large degree, what the per unit cost is for affordable housing. And so this is a little sobering as far as, from a commitment standpoint, we're seeing that there's a lot more money to be made or to be found for each development in order to create the units. Because when we started out, we had a generalized thought of how we're going to easily get to the total number of units, that the cost has gone up so dramatically per unit that it's now a game of trying to get those tax credits, trying to make sure that they can actually make it all pencil out so they can get to shovel ready, so they can get to implemented. And then key risks to meeting our Measure A goals still, land use approval, soft financing commitments is that progress, obtaining tax credit allocations, and of course the cost of projects keeps rapidly increasing. So these are the risks to get to where we want to be a mere 3 years from now, and I think that becomes the bigger question. And then, of course, next steps. It's a lot of what we're doing right now is seeing projects that are realizing that either they're not going to reach committed projects that the bond or the committee and the county have committed to a specific affordable housing development that ultimately has decided or has, let's say, reached the end of the number of extensions that they get with their money, and they're not making progress. And so we'll see how many of those reallocations we ultimately need to do. There's been talk, of course, of county or regional housing bonds. So that's going on in the background of how do we, get a little bit more money to get these projects over the line. And then, of course, state financing opportunities. There's been several talks, conceivably a bond measure a state bill to put that on the ballot. So that's, I think, it, yes. Consuelo, do you have input that you'd like to put?
Thank you, Mayor Klein, and good evening, everybody. Again, Consuelo Hernandez. I think as we near the tail end of the implementation, one of the things that we're really interested in learning from all of the cities is what we can do better. For instance, I know sometimes there's a lag on our website that doesn't necessarily show the current data. For instance, since Mayor Klein, we put together that presentation, we're now at 57 cities. We were able to add Campbell as an example. And I know some cities are interested in knowing more details on how the bond has impacted their community specifically. For instance, in Mountain View, we have 6 Measure A projects. And that's very different than Sunnyvale, we only have 1. And I think as you know, we kind of move forward, if there's a future opportunity for the county to come back and hear from you all what we could do better, that would be great.
Thank you. I'll bring it to the board. Do you have questions for me or Consuelo?
Good.
So I was just curious, in terms of those projects that are not moving forward, do you have like a sort of time frame where you will say, oh, well, realistically, it's just not going to happen, and you're able to reallocate those dollars to another?
Consuelo, you might want to give a better, you've been here longer than I have. I know that there's been multiple projects that have decided that they can't make progress. And I know we've given extensions, but I'm not sure. Is there a limit at the end of the day where we realize that they're just not getting a defense?
Or are there other projects that could benefit?
There,
New, projects that have emerged that perhaps weren't on the list or didn't make it, or, your allocations had already been fulfilled. So I'm just wondering, will they have an opportunity too?
sure.
Yes, so every project gets 24 months from the time that the board approves their project to show substantial progress. So substantial project means they get entitlements, they get local funding, and that they've applied for tax credits. So as Mayor Klein mentioned, there is a bottleneck with the tax credits right now. So if a developer has done everything they possibly can do, and they've applied for tax credits and it's the 24 mark, we give them a 12-month extension. And then we work with them to bring down those costs. We did this very closely in the city of Los Altos with one of their, the town of Los Altos, one of their projects, 330 Distal Circle, where we were able to bring down the project cost to 10 million, and it was finally funded in December. But that one we gave them 2 extensions because of that bottlenecking. And then to answer the second part of your question, Councilmember Kamei, yes, we also have a pipeline of projects that we keep on hand that meet all of the Measure A requirements. For instance, and Mayor Clay, I'm giving you a little preview that we'll be talking about next week, but we had a project in the city of Sunnyvale and a developer that could not move the project forward. We really wanted to see it happen. And so we reallocated that project's funding to help other projects move forward. But now we're back and actually revisiting the project again. The city of Sunnyvale made a really big commitment in December, and we want to be able to match that. So we're trying to, that one will come to the top of the list should one of the other projects not meet their mark.
The other thing that I was wondering, because this is something that I became aware of sort of afterwards, is that would the Measure A money be the first monies in? Because as you mentioned, the tax credits are really hard to get, and there are some that will never get the tax credits no matter what. So here you've tied up, whether it's Measure A dollars or city dollars, for that whole period of time, hoping, wishing, thinking that they will get the tax credits, and they're sort of in a situation where they'll never be able to get the tax credit. So
I'm wondering, as you start thinking about anything in the future or whatever, will there be sort of a priority setting to those who are more ready to go? So that you know that you're leveraging the dollars, and it's not just the dollars of Measure A and the city that are the first in.
Yes, thank you for the question. We're very thankful to the Housing Trust and to Destination Home. So they actually put in the riskiest money is the first money in for either site acquisition or pre-development costs. And we actually partner with both of them to issue that financing first so that we don't have to risk our Measure A dollars. Once a project is acquired, they get their land use approval. That's when we go to the board for approval. And at that point, they have 24 months. So we're not tying up the money unnecessarily. To your question, Councilmember Kamei, we're very thoughtful in when we bring that project to the board for consideration.
That's great. Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you. Any members of the public wishing to speak on this item? Anyone remote?
No.
Okay. Thank you. Next up is item 7, Legislative Action Committee update.
Evening, Chair, Black Chair. The Legislative Action Committee received a briefing this afternoon from on the current legislative session and state budget from Townsend Public Affairs. One of the most prominent takeaways is that in the wake of the fires in Southern California and on account of uncertainty out of Washington, that the budget surplus that was anticipated in the governor's January proposed budget is likely to be much, much more modest if it exists at all. We will know more at the May revise. Legislatively, Sacramento's key issues are housing financing, specifically two potentially competing bond measures, cap and trade reauthorization, encampment abatement, regional transportation funding, specifically through the mechanism of SB 63, which is authored by Senators Wiener and Carrageen, Brown Act modernization, and property insurance availability and affordability. Townsend also supplied their matrix of bills to watch so that can be made available to you if you would like it. More will become apparent starting on Monday, which is deadline to fill intent bills so that they can have actual contents. For context, there are over 2,300 bills currently active in the legislature. 800 of them are still spot bills, meaning they don't have actual contents yet. As a result, we also expect, therefore, that the number of bills that will be gutted and amended will be much higher than typical. We received presentations as well from Senators Josh Becker of District 13. District 13 represents a number of cities in the western portion of the county and parts of the county, as well as from Senator Dave Cortese of District 15, which now represents, I believe, exclusively parts of San Jose. Each went over over their legislative priorities for this year. Senator Becker is working on key clean energy reliability and affordability legislation in the form of SB 540 that would enable the sale and purchase of energy across state lines among Western states. He also highlighted SB 689, which may be of interest to a number of our cities. It would reform the California Voting Rights Act in order to reduce cities' legal exposure and improve their options when faced with the demand to shift away from at-large elections. This is one of those bills that we expect to be a gut and amend. Currently, it is simply an intent bill. Senator Cortese likewise underscored two particular of his bills, SB 753, which would facilitate the cleanup and return of abandoned shopping carts, and SB 33, a basic income bill aimed at homeless youth who are graduating from high school and who would otherwise lose numerous benefits that support their basic needs while they are still in school. And finally, at the very end, committee members were asked to supply their top 5 bills for analysis and consideration at the next FLAC meeting. You are welcome to do the same, send them to Shally. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any questions for JR? Comments? Any members of the public wishing to speak?
No, no.
Okay. We'll move on to our next item. And after our meeting with the county director, county CEO, basically he offered up Mr. Preminger to come here and speak about the latest in what's happening with the county, and I appreciate his long-term attendance, but I appreciate him willing to speak and not just be here and giving a comment to everyone. And I think it's important for at least this year, for the rest of this year, that you will have a portion of this meeting every month. So thank you again. Go right ahead.
Oh, I thought you were gonna read off my bio.
Oh, I don't have your bio.
No, I'm just teasing. I would cringe. And I've been coming for a long
I
time, so
know.
I think I know virtually all of you very well and have stories. As JR mentioned, the county has been working on a guaranteed basic income. We appreciate Senator Cortese and our current and previous Board of Supervisors that have put a lot of money into helping individuals and families turn their lives around. And it's really heartening to see the people that make themselves looking for a new life that $500 or $1,000 a month can give them. And studies show that people use the money responsibly and really do get to move forward. So it's always great when our legislators that move up the chain remember where they came from and stay true to that vision. Things I wanted to mention briefly were the whole issue of what's going on with ICE and immigration. I'm passing around Know Your Rights cards called red cards. I can get more if any city's interested in them. A friend of mine prints them. For a while, he was literally printing 1 million cards a day because the desire to have this information was so great. Basically, it tells people what to do if they're approached by ICE. And one of the things that I heard the Cities Association say a couple of months ago was what's going on with ICE and immigration is of concern in your communities. You have residents that live in fear. We're excited by a bill that Assembly Member Pellerin has introduced on understanding your rights. It has to do with if a person is picked up and taken away, their kids can be at risk. People are afraid to send their kids to school because of that dynamic. Her legislation would allow for people to designate somebody other than perhaps the other family member in the home to be a designated sponsor. And so we're hoping that bill, which is still getting worked out, makes it through. Last point on this, the county has available on our website information, and I can send a link to Shaylee to send out about how people can get ready for any potential ICE actions. There are things that people need to do to get organized, just like anything, getting ready for earthquakes. The more you're prepared in advance, the more you're able to handle it. One of the things that I'm going to be working on and working in each of your cities is to connect with the faith communities in your cities. These are organizations, as we all know, that thousands of our residents go every single week, and the county's going to want to, be able to communicate information about county services and all that. Disaster kind of work can be communicated this way. We hope we have a nice two-way communication, and I'm talking with the city managers, but many of you have really great lists and you know your communities well. So I may come and knock in one of these days. And then lastly, it's not my place to say this, but tomorrow night, Board President Otto Lee gets sworn in, and we hope to see you all there. He'll give his remarks, and there will be entertainment and refreshments.
Fantastic. Thank you for that update. Are there questions? So, Mr. Prince? No questions. So thank you. And I appreciate the cards. We'll see you know, there's definitely members of our community that have been looking for those, and I know there's a few versions of this and from different community groups that are out there right now. So I appreciate that. As far as outreach, are you focusing on all languages, all faiths, or what are you? Is
In
it?
terms of the faith outreach, absolutely.
Okay.
I don't speak any other languages, but I know people who do, and I have a auto translate on my phone. It's a great service. So I'm Mr. Communicator in that sense in the age of AI.
Okay, and then
in terms of the cards, we have these in many languages.
Okay.
I think up to 20.
Okay, and so that was one of my questions as far as a language, and as you're going to the faith organizations, do you want us to just start giving you the list, or will you be reaching
Well,
out?
if you give me contact names, because we don't want to have lists of congregations.
Yeah.
We don't think that would be something that leaders would be comfortable with. But if I knew who the minister or whatever is, I would communicate with them. I have an email that I would send out. So again, this is going to be a long-term project, probably something that will last the duration of your term as chair.
I'm sure. Well, it's you look at the diversity that we have in the Bay Area, and especially in our county, it's very difficult just to meet the language issues. And so, especially as electeds, we get invited to a lot of those faith events. You know, Sunday is Nowruz in our Persian community, and and there's a lot of it's like Nepalese community, Indian communities. Tomorrow is holy. So it's those barriers, and we're out there, and so having you as that point of contact, and just starting to make those introductions. I just want to make sure that you're ready for that deluge.
Well, I am ready for it, and I'm happy to accompany you, any of you, not just Larry. Although I know he has a way with restaurants.
There we go. I guess I do. Any director?
Sorry. Thank you, Steve. Thanks for being here. I'm very happy to see you on the agenda. Any updates on federal funding or the lack thereof?
I'll refer you to James Williams' comments. I know so much changes every single day. It's harrowing. I don't really have anything to say. We're still waiting. I will certainly keep that in mind, knowing that I have this permanent spot for the rest of the year on the agenda.
Fantastic. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, any members of the public wishing to speak? No one online. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Next up is Executive Director update. Oh, sorry. Yes. Next up is the Santa Clara County City Managers Association update. Mr. Kirby.
All right, good evening, everybody. City Managers Association met yesterday, and I feel like I see Steve Preminger every single day these days. There yesterday. Just some quick updates. Santa Clara County Leadership Academy is still getting going, but we talked about some projects there for those groups that join that. We also have our the Management Talent Exchange Program that's spinning up. So organizations are looking at applicants for that. That's where agencies swap staff for 3 months, or I think it's 3 months. And like Sunnyvale last year sent a staff member to Mid-Penn Open Space, and Mid-Penn sent us a staff member, and they work on a project, get a chance to have exposure to a different agency. And then the last, we got a nice update from City Manager Jennifer McGuire and her deputy who works on immigrant services, and Zolma Maciel, and they talked about I hope I said her name right there, and they talked about the city of San Jose's policies and their resolution around immigration and being a welcoming city. And then lastly, we had a nice, relatively lengthy presentation from Kimber McCarthy, this city manager for Mountain View, and her assistant Audrey, who talked about organizational stress. And they're doing some work in Mountain View around that. Many of you know that a lot of our agencies are experiencing what we call organizational stress, but it's basically the outside factors, workload, intensive scrutiny, today's sort of culture of not really believing experts or whatnot, puts organizations in very almost traumatic situations where employees will react in negative ways. It impacts productivity, retention, all the things, even recruitment. But what I wanted to share with this group was that there is an important role that board of directors, councils, the governing bodies play in managing organizational stress for organizations. They can help relieve that stress or help manage that stress. It can also be part of the stress. So just as an awareness thing, it is a good thing to be aware of. We're all running what are essentially relatively large, sometimes, for example, in the instance of San Jose, very, very large organizations, municipal corporations, essentially. And organizational stress is an important thing that we have to manage, and we all have to be in that together. So just wanted to share that. And that's all I have tonight. And I'll send you my bio, Larry.
You too, Steve. Yeah. Any questions for Mr. Curtis? Any public comments, questions? Okay, thank you. And now the executive director update. Kelly?
I don't really have a lengthy update, but I probably here. What's keeping me busy right now, this time of the year, it's, of course, finalizing the budget, but it's also doing the audit. So I hope to have our auditor come and present the audit, want to present it in April or May, around that.
And you're also looking at our storage.
Oh, gosh. Oh, yes. Yes.
Doing a field trip next week, 2 weeks.
We're gonna clean that. We're gonna look at what's in the storage unit. I have not been there since we became a JPA. So everything is from the former unincorporated organization. And I was in there once. I didn't really know what I was looking. Yeah, but it's yeah, very good.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of Shelley? Any members of the public wishing to speak? Okay. Lastly is joys and challenges. Any joys and challenges for anyone? Other than we'll probably end early tonight. Director Wally.
Thank you. The County Foundation had a fabulous Lunar New Year presentation this time, celebration. They always have a great one. It was exceptionally good. So just wanted to share that. That's something in Saratoga we all look forward to. The other thing, which is both a challenge and a joy, you have heard from me too many times in the last couple of months about everybody's need to work together for disaster preparedness. And I'm deeply appreciative of the support I have gotten from all of you. So on that front, one of the things that had been on my list, but could never manage with the schedule, I finally signed up for the CERT Academy and did not realize this is the first academy in person after COVID for Santa Clara County Fire. And keeping fingers crossed, Saturday is my last day, so I should finish that up. And I have found it to be extremely beneficial. I cannot recommend that enough. In fact, our colleague mentioned, Elliot mentioned at the executive committee meeting, I was going to that or something like that. And he said, maybe we can think as a cities association group to see different city council members going or just board members here maybe have a challenge, different ideas. Bottom line, it's very, very effective and helpful, and I can't emphasize that. Stay tuned, I'll share more next time. Thanks.
Thank you. Director Flagler?
Thanks, President Kai. I think Elliot should expand on this whole challenge idea that we raised at the executive committee meeting.
Well, I'll start with, I already myself made the pledge. I said within 1 year's time, so giving a nice what, I believe there's 3 a year typically, I believe, four, even better. This would allow for council members to, I mean, we all have our super busy schedules, right? But out of those 4 times a year, if maybe we can see which cities have the most people who actually went through CERT and graduated, and just, just for bragging points. I don't know if we're gonna get actual treats or things to pass over. Okay, you win, you get the trophy. I think we should put it in the budget to have a trophy for the city with the most, and then maybe runner-up trophy too. Much smaller, yeah. But that's what I'm hoping that we can organize, and I think Tina would be the perfect person to spearhead this, and so I hope that we all can challenge each other to this. The gauntlet has been thrown.
Thank
As I
you.
said, appreciate this. Thank you.
Director Lobby?
Montserrat has already won that challenge.
Oh.
Yeah, we have 3 people.
Oh, wow.
One of them is not serving this year, but at least last year we had 3 people who have gone through the CERT, including myself, so we've already won it, but that doesn't mean. You have 5 on council.
Yes.
You can get all of them. Since we're also making an announcement, my son Faraz is written is a writer on one of the programs. It's called Daily Boys, not Daily, but DELI Boys.
Yeah.
And there's at least 4 Desis here, so you may want to go take a look at it. It's on Hulu, and there's 8 shows, and they dumped all of them at the same time, so you can watch you can binge watch the whole thing.
He's the writer.
He's a writer.
And it's a show.
Huh?
It's a show. It's a show on Hulu.
It's on Hulu, yeah. So it's a new release on Hulu.
Congratulations.
And he's also written on another program, which is Shifting Gears with Tim Allen. I don't know if you guys like Tim Allen or not, but he's also written that program. So it's my announcements, I guess.
Joys and challenges? We'll get there. It's like, for myself, we started a free 2-year shuttle service in part of our city 2 weeks ago, which is, I've been pushing for this for a long time. But it does downtown. So for those of you that are coming here, actually, no, it stops at 7 p.m. So that doesn't work. Right now it's 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday. It's mainly for one of our business districts, but it covers about a quarter of our city, like the downtown portion, maybe a little bit more. And then it's one step towards a citywide shuttle that'll connect to conceivably Cupertino and Santa Clara, that we're hoping to do by the end of the year. But to me, this was something that I've been talking about for many years on council, and government moves slow, but as we all know, but it's good to see those things finally complete. If you want to come back here on April 5th, we will be having our Earth Day event. I know we go through these meetings every month, but there's a whole tree walk. There'll be other events with Silicon Valley Clean Energy here, Drive Electric, lots of things going on. But you can take a tour, a much more extended tour of the grounds and other things that we'll have community partners here for. But welcome everybody back on Saturday, April 5th from 11 to 2 p.m. Director Blygore?
Thank you. Just a quick announcement. You should have received the invitation from the county assessor's office. The county assessor's office is hosting an event next Friday from 12:30 to 2, and it's actually co-hosted and sponsored by the Cities Association, where you'll hear about the role of the assessor as it relates to emergency preparedness, parklets, property taxes, all things relevant to what we do as cities, and a lot more. So I hope you can join us.
Thank you. Anyone else? Director Hoots?
We passed our second housing development. which I consider a joy. This one went quite smoothly. It was filed as builder's remedy, but we were able to have the developer meet SB 330 rather than builder's remedy requirements. And so we got a project that I think is acceptable for the location. I would have preferred some different architecture, but aside from that, the right number of units in the right place. We are working our way through the 12 other builders remedies that we have. The council will be voting on approving a tolling agreement for one of the most challenging ones that is encouraging them to do an alternative development on that site that's much more suitable. Then we're also looking at litigation on some others. So we're working our way through the portfolio. The challenge side, we are recognizing the challenge with federal funding that could hit our city. And so we have scheduled an agenda item next Tuesday to look at the impacts of federal funding on our services, either direct or indirect. And we've invited our congressman and our supervisor themselves or their staff to attend that meeting and listen, because we have some very serious challenges with some funds that we're expecting to use for things like vegetation management, preparing for wildfire, and things like that.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Preminger.
It's me again. Since some of you brought up the issue of CERT, I just wanted to mention at the city managers meeting yesterday, when we looked for ideas for the leadership academies of supervisors and managers in each of the cities to study a subject, I brought up the subject of how can we encourage more certs developed in each of the cities. So that might be something that we learn about and can share with all of you in your quest for who's number one.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wishing to speak? No one on?
No one on.
Okay, with that, we will adjourn the meeting at 8:55. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Mayor Lam. Oh.
Thank you. Oh.
Yeah.
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 You might have been.
Yeah.
So yes. So